So if you just bought a Honda Ridgeline, first off, congrats. Secondly, there are a ton of settings that should probably be enabled from the manufacturer. There are settings that just make the vehicle easier to live with. There are others that improve security. And there's a few that are buried so deep in the settings that most owners will never find them. That's why today I'm going to walk you through 15 different tips and tricks on the Honda Ridgeline, so you don't own this thing for a year only to go, damn, I didn't even know it could do that. So let's hop on in. You're constantly on the go, and you may have your laptop with you, or cameras, or bags, or whatever your belongings are, and you'll get halfway into the grocery store, you'll get halfway into work, and you'll go, oh my God, I don't know if I locked the doors. And then you gotta walk back with your key and start hitting the alarm, trying to lock it or get it to make a sound or do something, or worse, you're like me, you have to walk and physically touch the door handle to trust that it's actually locked. You don't have to do all that. You can set up to where when you get 10 feet from the car, it'll automatically lock. Check this out. Okay, so we're gonna wanna set up the walkaway auto lock feature. So we're gonna go into vehicle settings. When you get into vehicle settings, you're gonna wanna choose keyless access setup. When you jump into keyless access setup, it's about 5 down, you're gonna see walkaway auto lock. This by default is always turned off from the manufacturer. You're gonna wanna turn that feature on. I wanna talk to you about the tailgate of the vehicle. My truck is set up to where when you lock the doors, it locks the tailgate. And I've got a tonneau cover, so not anybody can just get in. It takes a little bit more effort. You can do that same thing on the Honda Ridgeline, but you gotta set it up, because if not, even though the doors are locked, your tailgate will still remain unlocked. So let me show you how to set that up. All right, so to set up the tailgate lock, right, we're gonna come into vehicle settings. When you get into vehicle settings, you're gonna wanna go to door and window setup. When you get into door and window setup, you're gonna wanna scroll to the very bottom. It's gonna be the very last one. It's gonna say tailgate power locking. Now, if you enable this, anytime you lock the doors, it's also gonna lock the tailgate. That's another one of these features that's turned off by default from the manufacturer. So this next feature has been around for years, but I find that a lot of Honda owners just don't know that it exists. Did you know that if you press the unlock button and then press and hold it, it can actually roll your windows down and your moonroof if you have one? Pretty cool if you live in somewhere where it gets really hot during the day and you want to let the heat out before you hop in. Something else worth noting, if you take the key out of your key fob, you can actually put that in your door. If you turn it once and then turn it again and hold it, it'll actually roll all your windows and your moonroof back up. So the Honda Ridgeline is set up with smart key entry, and what that means is if I have the key in my pocket and I walk up and I put my hand on the door handle, it'll automatically unlock the driver's side door for me. But what it's not set up to do is unlock your passenger doors. However, you can set this up, if that benefits you, to where it unlocks all the doors when you touch the driver's side door. Let me show you how. All right, so to set this up, we're gonna go into vehicle settings. When you get into vehicle settings, you're gonna go to keyless access setup. It's this very top one, door unlock mode. Currently it's set to driver's door only. You can switch this to all doors. Now, before you come into my comments section going, that's incredibly unsafe, and what if somebody hops in the car and tries to carjack you and this, that, and the other? Yeah, if it doesn't apply to your lifestyle, then don't do it. But know that it's an option. So I'm up at the front of the car because I want to talk to you about Honda Sensing and some of the settings. But first I want to explain what Honda Sensing is. So I'll point out a couple things. Up here, you're going to notice there's a small trapezoid cut out, and that's where there's a camera at. That camera doesn't detect lines on the road to keep you centered in a lane, or if you start to drift off the side of the road, it can give you an audible alert. Now, down in the grill, there's going to be radar, and that radar can be used to detect cars in front of you. So if it's looking like you're coming up on another car and you're going to rear end, it can give you an audible alert. It can flash in the dash and then apply the brakes to help prevent the accident. Now, in addition to that, it can be used in adaptive cruise control. So if I set it to 60, car comes up on me, they're going like 55, it'll keep my spacing and slow me down. And then when I get out from behind them, it'll take me back up to my speed. Now, with all those different features, there are beeps and sensitivity levels and all kinds of things that you can affect. Let me show you where they are in case you find that one or two of them is just a little bit too sensitive or not sensitive enough. Okay, so if you go into vehicle settings, when you get into vehicle settings, you want driver assist system setup. Now under here, this is where you're gonna see all of those different safety settings that I was talking about. So forward collision warning, that's if it's looking like you're gonna rear in another car, it can give you an audible alert. You can affect how sensitive it is, so how much distance you want it to start alerting you at, right? The next one down, adaptive cruise control. So if you set your speed at 60 and the guy in front of you slows down to 55, it keeps that designated speed that you set up. You can set it to give you a beep or not give you a beep when it turns on and off, right? Road departure mitigation. So if you start to drive off the shoulder of the road, the car can give you an audible alert and then vibrate the wheel, say, hey, wake up, pay attention. Now, if that's too sensitive for you, you can make that a little bit wider, or maybe you just want a warning, but you don't want the vibration, right? There's different settings that you can change here. Understand that that's what this is. Lane keep assist. This is the one that uses the camera up there by the mirror to detect the lines on the road. So if you drift to the left or the right, it can keep you centered. So if you want this to be, the beep to be turned on or off when it's detecting lines, you can set that up here, right? So blind spot information system, I didn't mention that, but I think we all know what that is. If a car's in your blind spot, it lights up over by the dash, and if you start to get over, it gives you an audible alert to let you know that somebody's there. You can have both. You can have just a visual alert, meaning it just lights up in the mirror, or you can turn it completely off if you just don't want the feature on at all. So understand that you have all these different settings here that you can affect in case you find that you're getting too many beeps or not enough beeps, or you find that something's overly sensitive or not sensitive enough. So if you find yourself today watching this video, not because you own a Ridgeline, but you're thinking about buying one, right? And you want to know all the cool stuff that it can do, well, understand that I've made a video of the Ridgeline compared to the Tacoma compared to the Ford Maverick. So if you want to get an understanding for how it stacks up against some other trucks out there, know that there's a video that exists. I'll throw this up on the screen so you can see what the thumbnail looks like. The link will be down in the YouTube description. So feel free to take advantage of that if you happen to be shopping for a Ridgeline currently. So the Honda Ridgeline does offer driver profiles. Now, the easiest way to tell which one yours is going to be is if you look at the back of the key, there's going to be a number on it, right? So you can see that little square in there. So this is number 2. Now, what that means is when I get in the car, it's going to recognize that number 2 key is getting in. So if you come down here and want to set up number 2 for your memory seating, right? All I've got to do, get my seat adjusted to wherever I want it. Right, so let's say I get it here. I'm going to press set. These two are going to flash, and then I'm going to press 2. And now it's going to hold whatever position I've set for this vehicle. To affect some of those settings, understand you can come over here and you can go into vehicle settings. When you get into vehicle settings, there's driver position setup. This is where you can turn some of those features off if you don't want them to come on. However, I find that most of them are pretty helpful. So this next one is related to the cluster that you see back here. So I want you to understand that if you come in here, you can scroll through here and go to gauge display settings. When you come into gauge display settings, what's cool about this is if you find that there's certain like options that you're just never going to view, right, you can turn them off. Right, so if you're saying, hey, I don't need to look at tire pressure, right, or whatever it is. Now, some of them are set to be default, so you're not gonna be able to turn them off, but some you can, right? If you don't need to see audio, or you don't need to see speed and time, or range and fuel right here, don't matter to you, know that you can check that. Additionally, 2 other things. One, you see how you have the tachometer around the outside? You can turn that feature off too, and I'll show you in just a second. Additionally, there's gonna be a fuel efficiency backlight that lights up like kind of green and fades to white. You'll see it usually at the edges of the display when you're driving, right? If that's distracting to you, understand that you can turn that feature off as well. To turn off those last 2 features, let me show you where to go. We're gonna come in here and we're gonna go to vehicle settings. When you get into vehicle settings, you wanna go to meter setup. Under meter setup, you can scroll down here. You're gonna see fuel efficiency backlight where you can turn that off, and tachometer where you can turn that off. So if I turn the tachometer off, now when you come back over here, you're gonna notice that I don't have the tachometer. So it's just a little bit cleaner display if that's something you're after. So I wanna talk to you a little bit about customization on the touchscreen and through Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So the first thing I just want to point out is when you're looking at these, understand that you can rearrange and remove buttons anytime that you want. All you've got to do is press and hold on a button and it's going to go into the wizard. When you get into the wizard, at this point, then you can start moving stuff around. So if you want to move stuff to different spots, you absolutely can. In addition to this, you can also affect these shortcuts down here. So if you wanted Android Auto to be right here, know that you can set that up there too. If you find that there's something you don't typically use, so let's say you're only an Android Auto user and you don't use Apple CarPlay, know that you can move these features or hide them, right? So if I select on it, I could say, yeah, I want to hide this. Understand if you hide it, all you've got to do is back out of this and go into all apps. When you get into all apps, you can then go to that feature and turn it back on right there. And this is where you can check to see anything that might be turned off in your vehicle in case you buy it pre-owned. Now, outside of that, I want to talk to you about Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So there's a couple things that I want to show you on this. The first is just some basics. Now, right now you can see I have my GPS over here and I have my audio that would be right here, right? If I come in here, I can then go to my settings. When I get into settings, I can actually flip that. So if you prefer, you can come down here and there's gonna be a change layout button. You can select that. I can move my navigation closer. So now when I jump back, you're gonna see that the navigation is on this side and my audio or whatever else is gonna be on the other side. So that's just a preference thing. Now, the last thing that I want to show you is essentially a couple different things here. The first is I have this set up with these quick actions. And what that means is if I touch one like this, it'll direct me to the nearest Whataburger, right? Or if there's multiple, it'll give me the option to pick one. So if there's somewhere that you commonly go, you can do this and set it up, right? So if you're looking for the nearest coffee shop, if you're looking for the nearest gas station, the nearest certain type of bank, whatever it is, it's just incredibly helpful, right? So you don't have to constantly fill it in for yourself. Now, additionally, you can set up these custom actions to like directly call a person. So I have one set up right here, right? So where if I touch this, it'll automatically start dialing that number. Now that's dialing my number, which I leave a lot of times in the comments. So if you ever want to reach me, understand it's usually in the description of the YouTube video. Okay, so to set these actions up, we're gonna go to customize. So I'm gonna select customize. When you do, it's gonna launch either CarPlay or Android Auto. So you can see how it launched my customized launcher, right? Now, the first thing I'm gonna show you is if you ever wanna rearrange the order of anything, you can do that. So if I wanted to move gas stations #1 instead of Whataburger, I absolutely could. If I wanted to make calling me #2, I could select that and move it up to #2. All you gotta do is turn this off and turn it back on, or disconnect and reconnect for this to take place. Now, to set up those custom actions that we talked about, we're gonna go to add a shortcut, right? And then we can do call a contact, which was the one on how it calls me, and then you just go find that person, select them, right? Once you select them, it'll create it and drop it in at the bottom, and you'll just slide them up to where you want them. The second one is if you go to a Gemini action. Right now from here, you're going to type in your command. So maybe directions to Starbucks, and then you're going to name it, right? You'll launch your icon label. After that, you can test the command. And then if it works, or if you don't want to test it, you can just create the shortcut. Once you create that shortcut, it's going to then drop it on the list, but it's going to drop it down here at the very bottom. From there, you're just going to grab it and drag it up to wherever you want it. I go, okay, cool. We've got that set up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect, right? And I'm going to reconnect back up. Once I jump back in, I'm going to go ahead and jump back into all of my apps. And you're going to notice that all of these have rearranged. So library is here, gas station is here, call me is here, and Whataburger is here. So understand that you can change and customize all of these different things. Now, related to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, you may be like me. I have a 2020 vehicle and it doesn't have wireless CarPlay. And it would be nice if it did. Well, Zen sent me this out, and what this does is essentially convert any vehicle that has a head unit that has wired CarPlay or wired Android Auto into a wireless version. If you want to learn more about this, I'll throw a link down in the description. I made an entire video on it. But the point of this is I'm going to give this away. So if you head over to Instagram, you'll see a post there for this guy, and you can register yourself to win. 100% free to do. Take advantage. I could have used this a long time ago, and now I'm giving you the opportunity to win it as well. Now, this next feature is related to your rear mirrors, right? So you have this where you can switch between left and right, and you can put it in the center. If I move it over to left, what's interesting about this is if I throw the vehicle in reverse, you're going to notice it's going to tilt down my left mirror. Now, if I flip that switch over to right, you're going to notice it then flips down my right mirror. Now, if I don't want it to flip down any of them, I can put it in the middle, and now it won't flip down and tilt either mirror. Now, this button has started appearing in the cars, I want to say in like 2013, but a lot of people still don't know what it is. Let me explain that. This is the Econ button. When you press this button, you're going to see it go into Econ mode. What it's going to then do is going to affect the shifting points of the vehicle. So what that means is it's going to offset them to shift a little bit easier and a little bit slower to get you that better gas mileage. It's not going to let you rev super hard. This is the opposite of like a sport mode, right? It's not going to rev at a higher RPM and allow you to take off and get going a little bit faster. This is going to be the opposite. So if you're taking a long road trip and you're trying to save as far as MPGs, then the Econ button makes 100% sense. So the Honda Ridgeline is set up with what's called Lockout Prevention. And what that means is if you have a smart key and you leave it inside of the car and you try to lock the doors and then try to leave, it's not going to lock the doors. It's actually going to unlock them to prevent you from locking the keys inside of the car. So you'll be able to come back here and grab them. So understand that the vehicle is set up with this so that you never have to call a locksmith because you lock this inside of the vehicle. So I recently made a video comparing the new Honda Ridgeline, specifically the Trail Sport, to the Ford Ranger, specifically their Lariat version. So if you want to see how those two vehicles stack up, know that I made an entire video on it. I'll throw a link down in the description. I'll also throw something on the screen so you can see what the thumbnail looks like in case you want to check it out. Okay, so here's a fun hidden menu that you can get to. What you're going to do is you're going to press the home button, the power button, and the back button essentially, right? As far as like jumping back tracks, and you're going to hold these for a few seconds. When you do, you're going to see this screen pull up. You're going to get self-diagnostic mode, and you're going to get detailed information settings. It's kind of interesting. Of course, self-diagnosis, you can jump in here and it's going to show you all the different things and you can kind of check them off. Not as much to play with in here or kind of check out, but if you go to detailed information, there's some cool stuff in here. So if your camera, like your backup camera, gets knocked or needs adjustments, know that you could come in here and make those adjustments as far as display, color, brightness, contrast, the black level, all of those things. So it's kind of nice to know if you're finding that it's a little wonky or it's just not quite as bright or as dark as you'd prefer. You can also affect the guidelines set up there as well. Some other cool things that I found in here that I thought were kind of cool. If you go into smartphone information, this is really interesting to me. You have on for USB and wireless, on for USB and off. So for some reason you wanted to turn the wireless function of Apple CarPlay or Android Auto off, you could. Now, that also makes me wonder if I got in a car that didn't say that it had wireless CarPlay, could I get to this screen and turn it on? I don't know. I'll be curious to check that in another vehicle. Understand there are plenty of different things here that you can check out as far as your vehicle, the version of the software that it's running, right? System updates. You can see if you're up to date. Kind of some general detail stuff that might help you in the long run if you ever needed to diagnose the vehicle for anything. So this next feature is kind of a humorous one, but I think we've all can relate to this story. Have you ever been in someone's car and they stop the car and we're all about to get out and we go to start grabbing on things and we're pulling on it, we're going, why won't it unlock? And that's because you have to manually unlock this for it to unlock the door. Well, you don't have to set up the Honda that way. So to set up the way the car unlocks when you want to exit the vehicle, you're going to come in here and go to vehicle settings. Now, when you get to vehicle settings, you want to go in door and window setup. Now, we want to go to auto door unlock. Right now, it's set up to when the driver's side door opens, it then unlocks remaining doors of the car. You can change it when you shift to park or when the ignition gets turned off, or you can completely turn this feature off. So understand you've got a handful of different options you can take advantage of. Obviously, pick the one that best applies to your lifestyle. If you live alone, maybe you don't want it to unlock the doors. If you have an entire family of people constantly getting in and out of your vehicle, then maybe it makes sense to change it to one of these. So you probably already know, but the Honda Ridgeline has an in-bed trunk system, right? And it's lockable. But what's really cool about this is, let's say we were gonna valet the car, right? What we could do is we could come around here to make sure that stays locked. We can pop the glove box open. And if you look over to the side of the box, there's a button over there that you can switch. This essentially allows it to where even if they have the key to the vehicle, it won't unlock that. So if you're a valet in your car, right, you could go ahead and give the valet this piece and they wouldn't be able to access the trunk in case you have belongings there that are valuable. Now, this next feature is gonna be related to your gas door, right? So this is obviously got a button that's up here. And let's pretend for a second that this button got stuck and I couldn't get it to open that. And I'm like, well, I need to be able to put gas in. You come to the back seats and you lift this up, right? You're gonna come back here and move this out of the way, and there's actually a panel right here. You're gonna wanna get in that panel. So what I'm gonna do is use the valet key for this. So I pop the valet key out. Now, what I can do then is I can put that valet key right in this gap, and it'll allow me to just pop this sucker open. Now, once I pop that open, there's a trigger in there that I can pull. If I pull that trigger, that'll then pop this guy open.
So before we get out of here, 3 favors that I want to ask for you. 1, I hope you leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. Is there any tips or tricks that I missed? If you know one that I don't know, I would love for you to share it with me so that I can make more content about this vehicle. The second thing is I want to make sure you take advantage of the giveaway. If you currently drive a car that offers wired CarPlay or wired Android Auto and you'd like it to be wireless, go register to win this adapter for free. It's going to be on my Instagram, so take advantage of that. And the third thing I want to say is I hope that you'll subscribe to the channel so when I produce content like this, you'll get it. So other than that, like, comment, subscribe, all the things. Later, guys!